Hey there, Rappies. It's Rapper9198 here, and welcome to another edition of Ryan's Day Reading. So today, we'll be starting with the third and final part of I'll Push You by Patrick Gray and Justin Skisick. Part 3, the Camino de Santiago. So now we're finally getting to the actual journey part. This is the journey that this book is all about. That 500-mile pilgrimage through the terrains of northern Spain. So the first two parts are kind of telling their backstories, and then that was the first part, and then the second part was kind of the preparations for the trip. And so now we'll be starting this with chapter 7 called I Wonder If. So here we go. And this is from Patrick's point of view. So the chapters go back and forth, I guess. So it's Patrick and then Justin, and Patrick, Justin. So all right, so and then it looks like on the pages here, it kind of shows, I guess the chapters kind of cover where they are, like what kind of the point that they are at on the pilgrimage. So from Santiago to Saint Jean Pied de Port. I'm going the opposite way. Sorry. Yep. So Saint Jean Pied de Port all the way to Santiago there. So there's 771 kilometers. I think that's how it is actually in this book. Yeah, it kind of shows different points at different chapters. So if you can see here, yeah, so this is the beginning. So it's kind of different points, different sections, I guess. So that's the best way I can put it. So this is from Saint Jean Pied de Port to Santiago. So and it says from 0 kilometers to 771 kilometers there. So here we go with chapter 7, I Wonder If. So, and then this is Patrick talking here. On June 2nd, and again, this was, 2012, the year is what it was. On June 2nd, our final morning in Bayonne, we hear that a storm has settled over the Pyrenees Mountains, and it has been raining there for the past few days. At the railway station, the woman at the ticket counter tells us that the train from Bayonne to our starting point in Saint Jean Pied de Port has been shut down due to a mudslide that washed out the tracks. Either we find an alternate means of transportation for the 35-mile trip, or we're not getting there today. A number of buses are headed that way, but none with a lift to get Justin and his chair aboard. Already we're finding that accessibility in Europe leaves much to be desired. Terry and Mike go on ahead while we attempt to hire an accessible vehicle, but the luggage barrier makes communication difficult. Oh, sorry, did I say luggage barrier? Oh my gosh. Language barrier. Gosh, what is wrong with me right now? But the language barrier makes communication difficult. I'm so sorry about that. My French is pathetic at best, and Justin's Spanish is of no use here. After much discussion with the folks at the train station, we are mildly certain that a taxi is on the way. We wait for an hour, and when our ride finally arrives, it is the smallest accessible vehicle I have ever seen. Sort of a hunchbacked version of a Mini Cooper. And when the driver steps out from the car, the picture is complete. He has the wild hair of a mad professor, with clothes that are disheveled and stained, but he is all joy and smiles. While he lowers the ramp on the back of the car, he assures us that Justin and the chair will fit just fine, as long as Justin leans to one side and tilts his head. Even so, the fit is incredibly tight, and I have to climb into the car and reach over the back seat to guide the chair in. With the footrest pushed all the way in, Justin and his wheelchair are still about 2 inches from fitting. With one final heave, the Frenchman shoves Justin further into the car, while at the same time the loudest explosion of gas that Justin and I have ever heard escapes the cab driver's body. We all begin to laugh, and he says with a thick French accent, "Oh, I made an unfortunate sound." Pleased with his joke, he flashes us 2 thumbs up, slides behind the wheel, and starts the engine. Finally, we're on our way to St. Jean to meet up with Ted and the film crew, with Love Song by The Cure blaring from the speakers. All right, now we switch over to Justin talking now, to Justin's perspective here. After an hour-long ride wedged in the back of the taxi, I have a pretty good idea of what it's like to be a sardine. And though I can't stand up and stretch when we reach our destination, it feels good to at least be able to shift my position and begin to work out the stiffness in my neck. At the hotel, the elevator is too small again, so we borrow a standard wheelchair and leave mine locked in a downstairs closet. As we settle into our tiny room, we're joined by Terry and Mike, and now Ted, who recently arrived in town. With 2 twin beds and 5 people crowding in, there's little room to spare. So the 4 other guys sit down on the bed, and I'm in the borrowed wheelchair just inside the door. I miss the size and accessibility of American hotel rooms. Terry and Mike have decided that a 2-man crew is not enough for the challenges of filming our journey. Yesterday, Mike made a few calls, and now he tells us that 2 new members of the team are on their way to St. Jean. This represents a real commitment on the part of Imota, who had told us shortly before we left the States that they would foot the bill for filming our journey, even though funds were tight. But Terry and Chris hadn't planned on adding people to the crew. A few minutes later, we hear a knock on the door. When Patrick opens it, a tall, lean young man with long brown hair, bright blue eyes, and a perfect smile, the spitting image of Zac Efron, is standing there. "Hi, who are you?" I ask. "I'm Jasper. I'm one of your videographers." As Jasper squeezes into the room, he says, "Mike called me yesterday as I was headed up to Mount Hood to do some skiing. He said he needed some help on an amazing project in Spain. When he said he was interested, Mike chimes in. I said, great. Can you be here in 24 hours? So, do you know why I'm here? I ask. Do you know why you're here? I ask. Not exactly, but here I am. So tell me what we're up to. As we head out to explore the town of St. Jean, Patrick and I fill Jasper in on how the whole adventure started, and we can see that he's excited. He and Mike previously worked together on some ski film projects where Jasper had gained experience with filming action footage. When we return to the hotel, we leave Jasper to familiarize himself with the more than 100 pounds of video gear Terry has assembled while we go to a nearby bar to pick up some snacks for tomorrow's hike. As we're about to leave the bar, I hear an unfamiliar voice call out in a thick French accent, "Are you Justine?" A short, weary, black-haired young man with a thin, wispy mustache is smiling at us. "I am Robin. I'm your driver." A native of Bosnia, Robin skis professionally and was part of a film Mike worked on. In addition to his skills as a production assistant and driver, Robin brings fluency in Spanish, French, and Bosnian to the team. As afternoon turns to evening, the members of our newly expanded team, the 4-man film crew along with Ted, Patrick, and me, gather around several tables at a local cafe. Our excitement builds as Terry and Mike explain the gear they've brought along and the logistics of filming out on the trail. With the sun dropping behind the Pyrenees to the west, we enjoy cold beers and a hearty meal while we lay out our expectations of the film crew. Patrick looks at each one and says, "You guys are here to film, to capture what unfolds, but you can't help us in any way. We want things to happen the way they would have if you guys weren't here filming. So you're just flies on the wall with cameras." As the conversation comes to a close, we pay our tab and head back to the hotel, where we settle in for as good a sleep as you can get the night before you take on the Camino with a wheelchair. So now we're back to Patrick. In the morning, as we're packing up to leave, I can't find my glasses anywhere. After I thoroughly search the room, Justin asks, "Did you leave them at the cafe?" Crap! Going back to get them is not an option. The restaurant won't reopen for several hours, and we need to get moving if we want to achieve our first day's objective of reaching the town of Roncesvalles, I think is how it is. Roncesvalles. Roncesvalles. I'm horrible at pronouncing this stuff. Jeez. Roncesvalles. I'll say 17 miles of mountainous terrain away. In time for dinner. Outside, we are greeted by bright sunshine. After several days of unrelenting rain, with only a scattering of clouds to soften the depths of the cerulean sky, Justin, Ted, and I meet the rest of the team at a small cafe down the street from our hotel. The smell of fresh baguettes fill the air, and the aroma of rich French coffee floods our senses. We can almost taste it. After purchasing some of the fresh bread and coffee, we make sandwiches with cured ham and cheese while the film crew preps their gear. Feeling well-fueled for the morning of exertion we are about to face, we get up to leave. As we're gathering our things, our server approaches, points to the cameras, and asks what we're doing. "We're walking the Camino," Ted says. "In that?" she asks, pointing to Justin's chair. And Ted nods and says, "Oi!" The woman laughs and begins to walk away. As she turns, shaking her head, we can hear her say in a thick French accent, "No, you're not." This woman isn't the first person to point out that the odds are against us. Just yesterday, in fact, when we went to the Pilgrim's office in St. Jean to register for the Camino and purchase our Pilgrim's passports, in parentheses, let's see, Credencials de Peregrino. Yep. Everyone we talked to just shook their heads and told us we would never make it through the Pyrenees with a wheelchair. We heard the same word, impossible, a lot. By now, Justin and I have become accustomed to negativity and doubt. Many of our friends and family members are concerned about our safety on this journey, but several told us we were completely stupid to even attempt it. Discouraging as it may be, it is fuel for our fire. We will make it to Santiago, even if you have to strap me to a donkey, Justin says. Leaving the woman's pessimism behind us, we begin our pilgrimage. And right out of the gate, we're struggling. A steeply ascending country road requires Ted to strap in and pull much earlier than we had anticipated. And soon, we are on an even steeper dirt trail littered with brick-sized rocks. Back in Idaho, the trails and roads we trained on were flat from side to side. Here, every turn has us on a lateral pitch that forces Justin to counterbalance by leaning his weight in the opposite direction. The thousands of images and videos we culled through in preparation for the Camino have failed to give us a true appreciation for what we are now facing. As we struggle onward and upward, the camera crew runs ahead to capture shots at the best angle. They are working every bit as hard as we are, but with our focus on the task at hand, we soon forget they're here. Though we stop every half mile or so to eat a protein bar and drink some water. By 3 miles into this 17-mile day, I am on the verge of retching from exhaustion. The air is cooler and drier than we expected, but still my body is lathered with sweat. All I can do is rehydrate and pound down another protein bar. We have to keep moving. Ted and I begin to switch positions even more frequently, pushing and pulling, use different muscles, but already all of those muscles are becoming fatigued. After several hours at near maximum exertion, we find a place where the ground is somewhat level to stop and rest. As we catch our breath and drink more water, a fellow pilgrim approaches us, introducing himself as Father Kevin, an Episcopalian priest. He asks if he can say a blessing over our travels. We welcome the offer and close our eyes as he prays over each one of us a blessing of safety, guidance, and provision. For me, it's validation, acknowledgement that we are on the right path. Okay, now back to Justin. Reinvigorated, we continue to work toward our designated lunch stop, Refuge Orison, one of the pilgrim-specific hostels known as albergues that can be found in cities and villages along the Camino route. The trail has been incredibly difficult up to this point. Patrick and Ted are constantly slipping on the rocks and loose shell as they work to propel the 250 pounds of my fully loaded wheelchair uphill. But now we're on a section of paved road, a brief reprieve from the rugged path that has been jarring my bones for the past several hours. I feel like I've been riding a bike down an old washboard road. Not long into this next stretch of the Camino, we meet a young British woman named Lucy who lives in Austria. Her curiosity about the cameras accompanying us has gotten the better of her, and she asks what we're doing on the Camino. We tell her our story and ask about hers. Her life is full of questions about faith, family, and a potential career change. "So, what's your job?" Ted asks. "I'm an opera singer." "You have to sing for us then," I say with a smile. Lucy gives us a choice. Would you rather hear an operatic piece or an old English folk song? We choose the folk song. As she begins to sing, the sound of the wind at our backs, eagles crying in the distance, and the far-off jingling of bells around the necks of the sheep on the hillsides offer the perfect accompaniment to her extraordinary a cappella performance. The intense colors of the landscape and the purity of Lucy's voice bring each of us to silent tears of appreciation. It is a moment of pure beauty. When she finishes, I say to her, "So, you're an opera singer. What's your new career going to be?" I am an accompanist. I want to be a soloist. Here in the heart of the Pyrenees, we've been blessed to witness her first public solo. Having set a pace that is quicker than ours, Lucy moves on ahead and gradually fades in the distance, but the beauty of her voice has filled us with renewed energy. Despite the strain on Patrick and Ted, and the fatigue in my core muscles from the constant pitching from side to side, we keep trudging slowly up the lawn hill to a stone cross surrounded by a simple fence, which serves as a shrine to the many pilgrims who come this way. The climb has been punishing on all of us, and far more strenuous for me than I had imagined. My back and neck are tight and feel misaligned, and as we reach a plateau and stop to rest, I shift in my wheelchair to take the pressure off the sore spots on my backside. The chair has shocks intended to mitigate the jarring nature of the path, but they have proved no match for the rocks, large tufts of grass, and grooves in the trail from more than 1,000 years of use. In spite of all this, Patrick and I smile at each other in silent understanding. There's no place we'd rather be. After stretching his calves to work out the built-up tension, Patrick sits down on the side of the path and reclines in the damp grass. "Listen to that," he says. "Nothing but silence. It's a beautiful sound." Embracing the quiet, I look back at the distant green hills below, where we started the day. It's difficult to process how far we've come. As we get ready to move on, I turn my attention to the pathway ahead of us. "That can't be the trail," I say in utter disbelief. In the distance, the hillside is littered with irregular stones and haphazard steps of earth and rock, as if a staircase collapsed and was covered by dirt and shattered boulders. There's no way we're getting through this with me in my chair. The word impossible is echoing in our minds. We are beginning to appreciate what the people at the Pilgrim's office meant. Maybe they were right. Nevertheless, Ted straps in and begins to pull the makeshift red nylon harness attached by carabiners to the leg rests on my wheelchair. With Patrick pushing from behind, we gradually make our way closer to the base of the obstacle-ridden path. The closer we get, the more obvious it becomes that no amount of pushing and pulling is going to get me up this next stretch of trail. Patrick and Ted chalk the wheels with rocks to keep the chair from rolling down the steep path while they look for an alternate route. Leaving their backpacks on the ground nearby, they take a scouting run up the hillside about 100 yards. By the time they return, they've agreed that the only option is to carry me through the debris. As we discuss the best way to handle the carry, Patrick tells us, there's also some good news. I went a little farther up the trail, and around the bend at the top of the hill, there's pavement. Filled with the hope of some relief from the rough path, we are motivated to keep moving. With the brakes secured and the wheelchair anchored, Ted and Patrick retrieve a nylon sling we've brought along for such an occasion. As they gently slide the fabric underneath me, I psych myself up for this next challenge, and my two friends ready themselves to lift me out of my seat. On 3, says Ted. 1, 2, 3. The 4 nylon handles, 2 on each side of the sling, are suddenly drawn taut as gravity enforces its inexorable law. Ted and Patrick struggle to keep their backs straight as they lift me out of the chair and begin to carefully navigate the rough and steep terrain. Progress is painfully slow. After only 15 feet, they have to lay me down on the ground and rest for a minute. 300 feet, 15 feet at a time. How long is this going to take? Let's keep moving, Patrick says as he grabs the straps of my sling again. As he and Ted carry me, I'm in a reclined position and completely at their mercy. Step by step, they work their way forward, maneuvering over randomly placed stones while trying to keep their balance and not drop me. On the uneven terrain, we make another 15 feet before fatigue forces us to stop and rest a second time. 3 more carries, and we are almost halfway. My friends lay me down in a patch of grass while they scout ahead to determine the best route. Closing my eyes, I just listen, taking in this moment of reprieve. All I could hear are the bells around the necks of far-off livestock and the distant cry of a hawk. The wind whispers its way through the grass around me, and these few short minutes seem to last for hours. As I lie here, questioning how much more of this my body can take and whether it will be enough to last this month-long pilgrimage, I sense someone approaching me. When I open my eyes, I see an elderly Basque man straddling me, wearing faded jeans, a yellow plaid shirt, and a black beret. I'm captivated by his huge smile. Before I can say anything, he bends down and slaps my face. It isn't a hard slap, more like the affectionate slap of an Italian mother might give to her son to let him know how much she cares. But coming from a complete stranger, it's more than a little unexpected. Incroyable, he says to me in French. Yep, incredible. So, incroyable. When I respond in Spanish, ¿Cómo estás? He switches languages. Bien. Estoy muy loco. Estoy muy loco, I say with a laugh. I can tell he thinks we're crazy. Estar un poco mal de la cabeza es algo bueno. He's taxing my limited Spanish. But I think he just said that being crazy in the head can be a good thing. As we continue to converse, Robin offers to translate. He says he spent the last 12 years tending sheep in these mountains and maintaining a small refuge hut a little farther up the hill for pilgrims caught in inclement weather. In all that time, he has never seen a man in a wheelchair come over the Pyrenees. With a look of approval, the man points at Patrick and Ted and says, muy fuerte. Flashing a thumbs up sign, he adds, bueno, muy bueno. and continues up the hillside toward a hut made of earth and stone. Halfway up the hill, the man stops and turns back toward us. Raising his arms with fists clenched, he shouts, "Lo impossible is possible!" Such a brief interaction, but there is so much power in his words. They wash over us and fill us with a strength grounded in the idea that things are only impossible because they haven't been done yet. With this renewed strength, my friends pick me up again, and we finish the long, slow march to the top. After a quick water break, they head back down the trail to retrieve my wheelchair while I enjoy another few moments of solitude lying in the grass and embracing another moment to rest. When the guys return with my chair and load me into it, we're ready for the next section of trail. The path is now smooth, and the thought of getting onto a paved surface fills us with hope. But as we travel around the bend to the left, we recognize the trail for what it really is. "That's not pavement," shouts Ted. "It's mud." When Patrick, what Patrick, with his poor vision, could have sworn was asphalt, was instead more than 100 yards of thick, black mud. With the mountains slopping up to the left and a cliff dropping hundreds of feet to our right, our only option is to go through the muck. Though no one will say it out loud, we all have the same thought racing through our minds. This is just the first day. How in the world are we going to make this happen? Pushing the unknown future aside, we keep moving, one foot in front of the other and one turn of the wheel at a time. Ted and Patrick take turns, one donning the harness and pulling like an ox, while the other pushes the chair from behind. The sweat pouring down their faces stings their eyes, and the sweat running down their arms makes it difficult to grip the handlebar at the back of the wheelchair. With every muscle screaming for a break, lungs burning for more oxygen, and bodies desperate for another drink, they push slowly onward to the end of this stretch of incredible resistance. The physical strain on my body is brutally punishing as well. With every tilt of the chair over the uneven path below, I have to counterbalance with my weight in the opposite direction. The equivalent of thousands of precisely timed abdominal contractions are taking their toll. This expanse of mud and the constant uphill climb are slowly eroding our confidence in our decision to make this 500-mile pilgrimage. The final destination of Santiago de Compostela seems an eternity away. Yet the Basque farmer's declaration, "The impossible is possible," resonates in our hearts as we continue to trudge through the thick, oozing mud. All right, now we're back to Patrick again. Just when we think we've put the mud behind us, we are hit with another section of dark, wet muck. This next stretch seems even deeper than the first. Slowly, the wheels on Justin's chair keep turning as Ted strains against the red nylon harness with everything he has, trying desperately to keep the chair from sinking any deeper into the sludge. My breath is now coming in ragged gasps as I push against the handlebars, with head down and arms outstretched, doing everything I can to keep us moving forward. I know that Justin is having a rough ride, but he resolutely calls out course corrections to us. "Go right, now left," to help us avoid the worst obstacles and deep puddles along the way. Though we're all suffering, it's a true team effort, and it's drawing us together, even if we don't yet realize it. Inch by inch, we work our way through this section and farther up the mountain, straining the wheels as the mud tries to swallow us from below. As we approach our third section of more than 100 yards of mud, we see a small footpath where previous pilgrims had been able to easily bypass the mire. But it is too narrow for Justin's chair. We have no choice but to embrace the reality that sometimes the only way through something is through it. Finally, we put the last section of mud behind us, but we're still on an upward slope with no end in sight. After climbing 2 hills in succession, we come to the high point of a third, and Ted shouts, "This is the top!" But as Justin and I prepare for our first view of Spain, we see nothing but another hill stretching out before us. Onward we march, slowly and steadily climbing. "Okay, this is it," Ted exclaims at the top of the next rise. But there's still no summit to be found. When one more "we're here" turns out to be another premature celebration, Justin and I are still willing to give Ted a little bit of grace. But after the fourth and fifth false summits, we start yelling at him to shut up. This is more grueling than we had imagined. After 10.5 brutal hours, we are finally at the top of the Pyrenees Mountains, looking down into Spain. Ted offers one last, "Hey guys, we're here!" But we're all too exhausted to laugh. It has already been a journey, and this is only the beginning. The joy of finally making it to the top and of being here with my best friend has me thinking about all the stories and adventures we'll get to tell our children. When we retrieve Justin's phone to take a picture, we're surprised to see we have cell service. We call our wives. "We made it to the top," I say to Donna when she answers her phone. "Thank God. We have been praying for you guys. The whole church is praying for you. But we thought you should have made it hours ago." So did we. After we complete our calls, Justin asks, "If we have service, can we do a Facebook post from here?" It turns out we can, and we laugh as I type the words for Justin. "Today, I climbed a mountain in a wheelchair. What did you do?" For a few moments, we sit and enjoy the landscape. As I look around at the rolling hills, the green grass, and the trees in the valley below, it feels like the culmination of all the adventures Justin and I had as kids, many of which happened in the deep dirt hills behind our house. 1.5 miles is a pretty short distance when you grow up in a small town where your parents let you ride your bikes anywhere, at just about any time. I would often pedal my way to Justin's house to see what kind of fun we could muster up. The deep dirt hills were one of our childhood safe havens. It was a place to shoot BB guns, build forts, create adventures, and do some not so aggressive sledding in the winter. Though at the time, we thought the hills we cascaded down were downright dangerous. We were putting our very lives at risk, even attempting the steep descent. Somehow, Justin and I found plenty of ways to get into trouble. It wasn't that we were trying to be delinquents. Our intentions were always pure, or at least grounded in curiosity. I remember one winter day when we exhausted ourselves sledding and retreated to Justin's driveway with our friend Greg. The snow that day was perfect packing consistency, and before long, a snowball throwing contest was underway. We first aimed at Justin's mailbox across the street, but that was too easy, too close. So we took aim at his next door neighbor's mailbox. Still too easy. So we upped the ante and set our sights on a new target: the basketball backboard in the Smith's driveway. A little farther down the street, The Smiths went to our church, and Mr. Smith taught with my dad at Ontario Junior High. He knew us well and wasn't terribly fond of our shenanigans, and for good reason. My first attempt at the backboard wasn't even close. The nearly rock-hard snowball arced beautifully over the top of the backboard and crashed into the Smith's garage door with a thundering slam. Rather than do the sensible thing and run inside, we embraced our new target, the big white spot on Mr. Smith's brown garage door. Greg took a shot, and it was 6 feet too high, but the sound rang through the neighborhood. Justin went next and was 3 feet to the right. 5 minutes later, the Smith's garage door was polka dotted with dozen blotches of white. No one had won this contest, and everyone was about to lose. As I firmed up my next snowball and prepared to heave it across the street, Mr. Smith came barreling out of the house. His face beat red, yelling at the top of his lungs, "What in the world do you think you're doing?" "Having a snowball throwing contest," Greg replied, making a logical assumption that we were aiming at his backboard. This wasn't the first time. He pointed at it and shouted, "You guys aren't even close." Before I could stop myself, he shouted back the words that would seal our fate. "We weren't aiming for the backboard. We were aiming for your garage door." This is one of those moments that you wish you could take back. All three of us spent ample time grounded, and we were all relegated to our homes and rooms for remarkably similar lengths of time. I think our parents planned it that way. On another occasion, my younger brother Michael and I were waiting for our parents after Wednesday night activities at church. Along with Justin, we had made a snow fort nestled in the bushes out near the road, but invisible to anyone driving by. Naturally, a snowball throwing contest ensued. The question was, who could hit a passing car closest to the church sign at the corner of the lot? We'll never know the answer because we only got one throw. Mine. It turns out ice balls and windshields don't get along. The sound of breaking glass and screeching brakes cut through the darkness. We ran so hard and fast, straight into the church, up the stairs, out the fire escape, and into the safety of the field beyond. I still feel bad about that one, but not Mr. Smith's garage door. That was just funny. Time and time again, our curiosity and our willingness to be sucked into a dare got us into trouble. Justin once made a 1 in a million shot with his BB gun when he sniped an unfortunate woman who was jogging by, all because his older brother had dared him to. I launched a bunch of crab apples from my slingshot into a backyard across the street and hit my neighbor in the face. It seemed everything that went wrong could be traced back to a single question. I wonder if I could. I wonder if I could be the first one to hit that backboard. I wonder if I could hit a moving car with a snowball. I wonder if I can hit that lady with my BB gun. I wonder how many crab apples I can shoot at one time from my slingshot. Here in the Pyrenees Mountains, standing by my best friend, I can hear those words as if I were there the day he uttered them. I wonder if I could do that in my wheelchair. I wonder questions brought us a lot of grief throughout our childhood years. But as adults, things have changed. Now we balance wonder with calculated risk. We run the numbers and determine whether the why makes the how worth it. As I stand alongside my best friend at the top of the Pyrenees Mountains, I realize that my why has evolved since Justin first told me about the Camino. At first, it was simply because he asked me to go. Then it was because people told us we'd never make it. Though my why has changed, the how never has. It has always been together. People often ask Justin and me, what makes our friendship so strong? Our answer is simple. We choose to share life's adventures. I make his I wonders mine, and he makes my I wonders his. We pursue life together. We always have. And now here we are, one long day and 13 miles into a 500-mile trek across northern Spain. All right, and that concludes chapter 7, I Wonder If. So wow, this is quite amazing. They've gotten a pretty good start to that journey, I think. You know, not a whole lot, but they've overcome so much already, it seems like, with all the rocky terrains and the mud paths and everything. They're letting nothing stop them. And I just really love that. And it's I'm glad that really things are working and they're really able to capture it. Like, not just film it, and have it, share it with everybody, share it with the world, but also it's great memories for them as well. And I'm glad that it's nice that it is becoming a very inspiring story. But yeah, I hope you guys are really enjoying this as much as I am. So yeah, again, I believe that these are covering kind of the sections so this is like the first 13 miles then that they did throughout this chapter. And then in the next chapter, for chapter 8, called Blind Faith, it looks like this will probably be the next 13 miles or something. This is the next part of it. So yeah, we'll stay tuned next time as we go into chapter 8, Blind Faith. All right, thank you, Rappies, very much. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and again, stay tuned for more videos. All right, love you, Rappies, to death. God bless you all, and see you next time. All right, bye.